Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to be with you here in these live sessions. I'm very happy to meet you again after an interval. And this is due to the fact that there have been a lot of tasks that cannot help accumulate, and we have to attend to a number of them. Some of them require a lot of work, continuous work. So I really apologize for not being able to make it over the last 2 days. Today I have, you know, scheduled this live session in response to the request from a number of students asking me to say something about secondary articulation. Sorry, let me change this. Okay, I think it's fine now. Okay. Um, Tired as I am, but it's always a pleasure to meet you and to interact with you and try to do my best to answer your questions. Si Mustafa Morshid, hello. Nathalie Leblanc, hello. Atimat Shamko, good evening. Okay. MGCFGG, hello. Okay, how are you doing? I'm Fidwa. Okay, you are welcome, Fidwa. Thank you for I think it was your the first request what came from you on this. Okay, Ustad Samia, hello. Siyasin, good afternoon, dear professor. I hope you're doing well. Thank you very much, Siyasin. Si Mustafa, first of all, I would like to congratulate my dear friend Dr. Mohammed Bouissane on being recruited as an assistant professor at the Faculty of Letters, Qadi Iyad University. I second you, see Mustafa, because I had in mind doing this myself. See, Mohammed is a good friend of the page, so he deserves, congratulations. I don't know if he's with us here, so congratulations, see Mohammed, on having made it at least at or into universities. This only shows how dedicated you are as a researcher and also as a promising teacher. People have trusted you, entrusted you with this position only because you have shown evidence of hard work and of seriousness. So congratulations once again. For me, this is no accident, Si Morshid. This is no accident because I have known Si Mohammed for a number of months, and I was a jury member in his defense, and I foresaw from the very first encounter that he would be an outstanding teacher, an outstanding university professor wherever he is. I wish you all the best, Si Mohammed, and Uqbalik, inshallah, Si Mustafa, and all the friends who are following us here. And as is said in Arabic, لِكُلِّ مُجْتَهِدٍ نَصِيب. So this is well deserved, and everyone who invests in his or her studies will no doubt, find his dream or her dream job, whatever it is. Okay, nice. So thank you, Si Mustafa, for this, statement. All right, 10 people here. Would you kindly share the link to this page so that we can have more people before we start? لعقبال كل باحثين إن شاء الله إن شاء الله. Yes, هنا منهم سامية مستغفر واعتماد شقوق وعبد العالي الفقير إن شاء الله, and all the friends here, and even the master students and even the licence students, because time flies. Time flies. There were a number of students when I look back. I have a cursory glance at my history as a professor at the university. There were students I taught in S2, in S4, the master's level, and they are now my colleagues. Some of them have already, had their habilitation, which is a very good thing. It only takes some patience and seriousness and hard work to achieve what wants to achieve. And these words should motivate the people here who might think that, whether you work hard or not, this boils down to failure to find a job. I'm sorry, this is not the case. Let me tell you, and we have proof here. So many friends here are now university professors. Some of them will soon be university professors, and these people, have invested in their studies, and investing in one study and studies pays off with no shred of doubt. Thank you very much once again. I don't know if we have more comments from the friends here. 13 people are following us. Is it the case that they have not, the link has not been shared? I really don't know why, but 13 people is still too few. And I would like to request that the ones who are watching us to hit the like button in hopes that this will reach more people so that we can start. In any case, if we start and if someone arrives when we have gone halfway, it would be difficult for him to follow with us. And that's another reason why sharing the link would be a good idea. Let me do that on my, okay. Sorry, someone is telling me whether I am ready for the live. Saying I am online. I am online. Okay, good. So let me just share this link on my WhatsApp. Would you kindly do so that we can have more friends with us? Again, I'm not asking for more. The main reason is that the people who will join us will not be hard put to see the beginning, or to know about the beginning, the first parts of this lecture. Fine. So let me share this on my WhatsApp. At least some people can see it and decide to join. Okay, nice. Especially the ones who have questions, who have queries, and about other aspects of their studies. See Yasin Razzouk. Hello, see Yasin. So he says, Professor, why research design is important? Research design is important because if you take the wrong design for your objectives and your research questions and hypotheses, different hypotheses dictate different designs. So if you have a purely qualitative design, and if you have objectives and hypotheses that are purely quantitative, that it means that your design has to be statistical, has to be quantitative, where you need to define your hypotheses a priori, and where you need to make sure that you control all the variables that can interfere with your results. And of course, the design is where you explain also, because the design dictates on you also your instruments, the data collection instruments, and therefore it's necessary, because in research, especially in applied linguistics and language education, and also in sociolinguistics, in a way, in research where there is field work, the research design is of primary importance. The reason is that in such research types, the fieldwork research, this type of research that requires field work, it's not so much the question of what did you find out? It's also how you reach this conclusion, because there is this additional question of how. Why do people ask the question of how? Why? It's because it's like a chain. If you are, if you take a wrong step in the middle of the way, it means that your conclusions are not reliable. That's why people would like to see what your objectives are, but also what did you do, to collect data, and what did you do to analyze the data sets that you have, the data you collected from the people who responded or who took part in your study. That's the reason Yasin Razzouk. In fact, it's not just mentioning your research design, but also arguing for it, saying why you have adopted this design. That's also important. So saying what it is and saying why it is the way it is. Okay, good. For qualitative data analysis, especially the one, I'm not saying qualitative in let's say non-field work, armchair linguistics, like someone who is doing phonology, morphology, syntax, just thinking up data by virtue of being a native speaker, and start to embark on an analysis. These may not need detailed statements about the design. Okay, all that they need to say is that the data comes from my own introspection because I am a native speaker. But when you have a questionnaire, an interview, data collection instrument, you go to the field and you collect data. Here, the research design is of paramount importance, of course. Again, to answer why is it important? It's important because people would like to see what road have you followed, which way you have gone, so that they will say, well, yeah, your results are sound because you have gone the right way. It means you have followed the right methodology, and that is known under the Latin expression modus operandi. Okay, nice. So it's Yasin, I have answered your question. Thank you. Say Mustafa, you always do. You have always had this generosity of sharing the link. Thank you very much, Say Mustafa, once again. Thank you. Thank you, Si Yasin Marzouk. I don't know if the friends here have further questions, or do you think it's time for us to move to secondary articulation? Nathalie Leblanc says, Nathalie, finally, it's one of the achievements of this week is who Nathalie Leblanc is. Okay, she turns out to be my master student, and I talked to her yesterday about this. Okay, so if we do not find enough work related to our topic, does it mean this is not? No, not necessarily, Nathalie. Not necessarily, because there are certain aspects, for example, in let's say in the lexicon or in the area of mental lexicon, for example, in Morocco, very few studies have been conducted. There are certain areas in linguistics, in applied linguistics, that have not been explored. So you may find a couple of references, 2 or 3, but this does not mean that the research is of a low quality. No, not at all. It means that people have not had the guts to investigate it, and that it takes a lot from you as a researcher. It takes more effort from you to come up with a piece of research just depending on a couple of references. So no worries, as long as your supervisor approves your objectives and your hypotheses, and as long as you can provide a rationale for the reasons why you have chosen to work on this or that topic, Nathalie. Okay? So that's the idea. An attempt to find references is of paramount importance. It's necessary, of course, but if you find only a handful of references, let's say 3, 4, 5, it's not, your research is not lower in quality than a student who is working on another, piece of research with 100 and 150 references. No, it's on the contrary. People will hail you as being the pioneer in your context, for example, in your local context, for example, in the Moroccan context. Okay, good. This reminds me of a student a couple of years ago who embarked on the analysis of the syntactic structure. That was not easy because the references were not enough. He could barely find 3 or 4 references, and none in the Moroccan context. But the quality of his work was one that is not only outstanding, but very respectful, because you see the effort that he made there. Okay, so no worries, Nathalie, no worries. Okay, waiting for another question if there is any before we go to the analysis of, not the analysis, okay, the explanation of what secondary articulation is. So if you know anyone at the level of S1 who is doing spoken English, I'm talking here to the different friends here who come from different cities, please share the link so that the students can come. And it's of S1 because there is a phonetics component where they talk about this, but also this is relevant for S4, Introduction to Linguistics, and also S5. In some universities, they have a phonetic component in linguistics at the level of S5. So if you could possibly, share this link again, if you have not, please do. 20 people are watching us, but only 7 likes. God knows why this is the case. Now 8 likes. So please hit the like button so that the video or this live video will be promoted. Okay. Nathalie says, thank you, Professor. Si Said, Ahlan Si Said. I hope you're doing well. Thanks again for the gratitude. Barakallahu fik. Barakallahu fik, Saeed. Thank you. Si Mustafa says, when we're going to have sessions on academic writing, Professor, so soon. Si Mustafa, I'm just immersed in a lot of tasks that I need to attend to urgently. So there is no way I can have the live, at least this week. This week is really is a hectic week for me. It has been very hectic. I worked on Sunday, worked on Saturday. I had to travel to a different city, for a task, for an academic task, of course. And you see, so but probably as of next week, I can have enough energy to deal with this. But Si Mustafa, I do agree with you that these are sessions that can be of benefit to all of us, regardless of our academic level, because there are certainly aspects in writing that we may need to improve. There are certain mistakes that we think are not mistakes, but they are. Of course, there are habits that we need to unlearn, and there are other habits that we need to learn. So I'm sure, and this is a promise, there will be sessions that relate to the field of academic writing. So Mustafa, did in phonology or syntax? So phonology and syntax. So we are covering, because this is almost something like on demand. When I receive a request, I have received this first request on secondary articulation. I am responding to it now. There is another request about pitch, intonation, stress, etc., and that's probably for the next video. Anyway, if the friends here are interested in an area, in a topic, in an issue that they would like me to shed light on, all that they need to do is send me a message in the private, on Messenger, and I will be responsive. Okay. Si Mohammed Boysan, hello, Professor. Si Mustafa, si Boysan, or Professor Boysan. So congratulations. I was very happy to hear the good news that you passed the the pre-selection and the oral exam. You outperformed other candidates, which testifies to how excellent you are and how outstanding you are. And my prediction was right. So I predicted that earlier, and then there you go. So I wish you all the best, inshallah. I'm sure you will be a successful teacher. Nice. And we have, myself and Si Mustafa, we've talked about you, at the beginning of this live, and we congratulated you in absentia. All right. Nice. C.S. Yarzouk, my semantics teacher asked me to prepare a lesson on entailment. Would you mind giving me some advice, Professor? C.S. Yarzouk, there are very interesting books on semantics and pragmatics. Semantics, you have Saeed 2007, but you have other books. If you email me or if you send me a private message, I'm sure I will attach at least 2 books where you can find, concepts like presupposition and entailment, explained at length. But if you just so you say advice, this is a very broad question, but if you are asking me to tell you how you give you need to deliver the presentation, then make sure that a successful presentation is not one that lasts long, contrary to what so many people believe. A presentation is one that you need to prepare very well, and that should not be delivered while you read. And for the contents, that is to. And by the way, it's a good idea to think of examples, because the type of presentation you have there is the presentation of a content. It's not the presentation of an idea. So the best way of teaching, by the way, this is a message also for teachers. If there is a concept that you would like to teach and you express this worry that your students may not understand the concept, then the best solution is to think of providing them with adequate examples. With examples, you can do miracles. Okay, so if you have a specific question about this, see Yasin. Okay, I would love to hear this, the specified question. Asma Narjis says, "Good evening, Dr. Anous. Thank you for your lives. They are dynamic, interesting, very comprehensive. Thank you very much, Asma. Thank you. That's really nice of you. Very generous of you and kind of you. Si Mohammed says, thank you, Si Nordin. Allah yarham walidin. Your advice has been fundamentally helpful. You are most welcome, dear Mohammed. I'm really, really happy for you. And as I am happy for anyone who deserves to pass and he or she passes. It's really nice. I do believe in this, in the idea that hard work pays off, contrary to all sorts of words that you hear to the left and to the right and from your relatives, and that whether you study or not, you will be on the dole, you will not find a job. No, that's not true. That's not true. Work hard first and then complain. But there are people who complain without making any effort. The job will not come, my friend, and knock on your door and ask you, come, I am here. No. Okay, nice. MCGFGG, I send this link on groups. I wish that they attend this lesson. Well, anyway, if they know and they are interested, they will certainly attend. You are already 26 people here following me. That's more than enough. Please hit the like button for those of you who have not, and then we will be, we'll be all set. Is there any other question that you would like to ask, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the discussion of, secondary articulation in phonetics? Fidwa, you asked me, you made this request to talk about secondary articulation. That's a very good thing. Alan Usada Fidwa Al-Qadiri, we have another professor here who has recently been recruited. Usada Fidwa Al-Qadiri, thank you. Thank you very much, Usada Fidwa. Very nice. So we have two fidwas here. Okay. I guess that this is for S5ers. Maybe the polydisciplinary faculty of Nadur. I think they have a lesson or they have a course of linguistics, and as it's whatever you are. There is this. During preparation, there are always questions that students ask, and maybe aspects of the course that they think they need, more light on. And this is quite normal wherever you go. But I got these couple of questions from students belonging to the polydisciplinary faculty of Nador, who are not. That's ironic. So I get more interest. More interest in this page and this channel comes from students from Marrakesh, from Rabat, from Meknes, but fewer from the polydisciplinary faculty of Nador. I don't know why. But in any case, thank you, everyone. So I will wait maybe for 1 more minute to see if there is a question here. Otherwise, if in the absence of questions, I can go ahead and talk about secondary articulation at length. And this is something I request from the students, maybe who find these explanations interesting. If you don't understand anything, all that you need to do is type the things that you don't understand, and maybe you can ask for examples. And if you have other questions in phonetics, I am here to to shed light on the issues you have in mind as much as I can. Okay. Okay, thank you. I don't think there are questions to be discussed, that we usually as we usually do in our lives. So let me just move on to talk about secondary articulation, what it is, and whether there are examples of secondary articulation that we can provide. Okay, please, if you don't understand anything, especially the students who ask me to talk about this, feel free to write your question in the comments space. Now, what is secondary articulation in phonetics? Secondary articulation in phonetics, the word secondary means that there is something before it, which is primary. Secondary means second, primary, from there comes premier, primero, premier, whatever. So when we produce a sound, let's take a given sound like t or b, a consonant, this is primary articulation. It means the original pronunciation of a given sound. Okay? Now, secondary articulation means that apart from pronouncing a sound like p, d, k, a consonant like these, there is another articulation that is taking place simultaneously. Simultaneously means at the same time. Okay? For example, when I write a word like this one here, a symbol like this one here, okay? A sound. This sound is what? This sound is k, the k sound, okay? We find it in words like kilometer, car, carpenter, speak. So all these have these symbols, okay? So this is, let's call this the primary articulation. In some languages and in some contexts, context means where they are in a word. I repeat, in some languages, let's say in some languages, we have sounds that are like this, k, but we have other sounds which, apart from being like this, they are also k, but as we pronounce this, there is an additional articulation, an additional pronunciation, an extra pronunciation, an extra characteristic, let's say, which is what? For example, when okay, so you have a k. There is a difference between k and k, like this. There is a difference between t and t. I think this needs some examples. Yes or no? Okay. I have examples from English, Arabic, Tarifit, Tashilhit, and I can give you different examples of secondary articulation. Now, let's start with Moroccan Arabic, which is likely to be understood by all these people following this live. Okay? Okay, please pay attention. If you want to know what secondary articulation is, follow the example. Very easy. You listen. You have this. No, I need a word. Okay. Okay, let's say this. الماكينة ديال شي حاجة. Une machine. Try to pronounce this alone. It's a k because we say ma-ki-na. So this is just a k. Okay? وعليكم السلام سي سعيد المراد. Nice. Just take another word in Moroccan Arabic. Okay? What is the future tense of the verb to eat? I will eat. I will eat in Moroccan Arabic. I will eat in Moroccan Arabic. What do you say? You say غادي ناكل. Yes or no? Look at this. غادي, you know how to write غادي? So you have na. Okay. غادي يلا سيدي غادي ناكل. Look at this k here and look at this k here. The k of makina is just a k, but the k of nakul, it's not a k, it's a k. Nakul. You see? So if you are a native speaker of Moroccan Arabic and I come to say to you, for example, غادي ناكل, you will say, well, you come from another language, background, which means that in Moroccan Arabic, we have two k sounds. A k sounds which is simple, it's a normal k, like this. And we have another sound where, as we pronounce at the same time, we pronounce k, and we give it another coloring, we give it another articulation by rounding our lip simultaneously. So we have a difference between k, like makina, makina, and you have nakul. Look at this u that you have here, nakul. You have okay, so that's one thing. That's from Moroccan Arabic. Is that fine? That's an example of secondary articulation from Moroccan Arabic. Let's move to the discussion of secondary articulation. This type of secondary articulation with the lips. In Tashlihit, for example. In Tashlihit, you have what's that? Let me produce a word. Takat, for example. Takat, which means fire. Look at this. Takat. It's fine. It's not takat. It's takat. Okay. But if you want to say friend, it's not andakil. It's andakul. It's a k. With this, it's like anakul. It's andakul. That's tashlihit. That's tashlihit. Good. Now, what is exactly the difference between the k of makina and the k of nakul? What's the difference between the k of takat and the k of andakul? Okay. In Tarifit, for example, I guess our friends from Nadur are here. In Tarifit, if you want to say he did something, he did. What is, okay? It's iga. Okay? Iga. Iga means to do, comes from the verb ig. Okay, just ig. It's not ig, it's just the infinitive. Ig. Ig means do. Igate means make tea. Yes or no? Fitwa, are you here? Okay. So ig means do. But there is another verb in Tarifit, which is what? Look at this. It's ug. It means make bread. It means knead the bread. Ug it's when you mix with force. When you want to make bread, then you try to put water and flour and everything, and you start, doing the gymnastics with your hands. Okay, so that's ug. Ug. Look at this. So ug here, the pronunciation of ug is not like the pronunciation of the verb to do, which is ig. Again, this is a good example of secondary articulation. Okay, now we are at the level of examples. Another example of like this with this u, as you can see, I have started with the examples that have u as an accompaniment, as an accompanying articulation, as a secondary articulation in Moroccan Arabic. Again, we come to Moroccan Arabic. What is water in Moroccan Arabic? It's al-ma. Ma. Look at this. Ma. If you want to express the diminutive as when you make a request or when you make an offer, واش بغيتي الماء? We say واش بغيتي مويها. مويها. Look at this. It's not miha. It's مويها. مويها. It's a ma, but that a ma is, accompanied with a rounding of the lips. Okay. Another example comes from English itself. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. You have the word meat. Meat. Look at the t of meat. We pronounce it as t, meat. Okay. But if you want to say one, what comes after one is two. Me too. Look at how you pronounce two. And two. It's not t, it's a t, because you are anticipating the o there, so it's two. Even visually, you can see the rounding of the lips. Okay, two. So again, these two t sounds are different. Okay, so what do we learn from here? Si Abdullah Raji, is it a type of assimilation? Let me make the point, please. Si Abdullah Raji, that this is very interesting. This reminds me of a point that I needed to express. Secondary articulation can be, as are the examples that I have provided you with here. These are not assimilation processes, because for them to be assimilation, they have to. We are moving from phonetics to phonology. Now, no, these are phonemes like g and g are phonemes, so they are sounds. So we are just doing the description, phonetic description. But when you are in phonology, yes, you do have processes in phonology that take the form of secondary articulation. Why? Because what is a phonological process? Like assimilation. It's a transformation that sounds undergo so that they look either much like the other consonants or less like the other consonants. We are coming to these things. I think my S5 students, one of my students asked me to talk about distinctive features, and then others talked about or requested phonological processes. We'll have plenty of time to discuss these things. But now, in this session, we are talking about secondary articulation from a purely phonetic perspective. Okay? We can have also in morphophonemics, you can consequences of juxtaposing morphemes, can result in assimilatory processes where you can observe as a consequence a secondary articulation. But now we abstract away from phonology and morphology. We focus just on phonetics. Okay, so Sarda, thank you for that question. Nathalie Leblanc says we can also find in the plural of some words like mu'an. That's absolutely right, Nathalie. Thank you. So mu'an, it's not ma'an, it's mu'an. It's an M there. It's a M sound, but an M sound that is accompanied, means at the same time while we pronounce M, it's not one after another. No. In secondary articulation, the two features are at the same time. So you say M, but as you say M, you purse your lips. M. As you say K, you purse your lips. It's K. As you say T into, you purse your lips. You say T. You understand? So what is second? So you mean? So we have seen the examples. I think we have a plethora of examples from different languages. What these examples share is the fact that, and this is a message to the S5ers who asked me to talk about this, is the fact that I'm sorry, because I was at the same time looking at the comment. I will not do that. So I'm sorry, I'll defer the discussion of comments later on. So here, what we observe is that we have in all these examples, they were chosen carefully, by the way. Although they are spontaneous, they are chosen carefully. In these examples, what do we have? We have M, and then we have K, and then we have T, at least and you have G, different examples from different languages that are produced with a simultaneous means at the same time, with a simultaneous pursing of the lips. K is a normal sound. K is a sound that has secondary articulation. Here, the lips. G and G, it's the same thing. G is a normal sound. It's a voiced velar stop. And by the way, if you have questions about this place of articulation, manner of articulation and voicing, just ask me here and I will start the explanation now with no problems. Okay, but let me finish this first. So what is coming to all these sounds? What is coming to all these sounds is that, as I said, there is one pronunciation, the normal pronunciation, but with an additional color, ولا feature ولا characteristics, ولا an additional smaller pronunciation, which is the lips, the pursing of the lips. Now, what is, if I ask you this question, what is the adjective that comes from lip in English? It's labial. What is the verb for making something labial? It's to labialize. What is the noun that comes from to labialize? It's labialization. Okay? So students may hear labialization, but they don't know what it is. Labialization, because you have the root labial, from there comes labios in Spanish and lips in English, and from there comes lèvres in French. So labialization is what? It's a secondary articulation where, apart from pronouncing the original sound, we purse our lips. Lips, علاش lips? حيت labialization. You cannot do labialization by just moving the tongue. No, labialization necessarily involves the lips. So when I say g or ug or amdakul or m, what am I doing? I am pronouncing a sound with an extra movement of the lips. That's why we call it labialization. And labialization is a good example of secondary articulation. Please do not confuse the word labial with labialization. When you have labial, a labial sound is a m is a labial sound, bilabial sound, in fact. F and v are labial sounds. They are what? They are labiodentals, more specifically. But labialization necessarily means that you have one consonant. At the same time, you have another articulation with your lips. It's called labialization. Okay? So that's the idea. So what's that? إتمام أو إشمام كسرة السين في كلمة سيئت بضمة. سيئت. I know, but maybe some readings and cantillation of the Quran. سيئت وجوه سيئت. Maybe, but I have from the Quran. Let me give you other examples from maybe clearer examples of the Quran. When you have back consonants, okay. For example, when you have سمعوا لها تغيظا وزفيرا. For example, that's just spontaneous. In the cantillation in tajwid, you have سمعوا لها تغيظا. It's labialized. And same thing for خ. خالدين فيها. It's not Khalidina. Wherever there is someone who corrects this on programs that you see on TV, for example, you say, no, you have to, I don't know what this, they refer to this in Arabic, but this is labialization. You see? Khalidina fiha, you have to say this with a w sound here. So that's the example from the Holy Quran, and you have other examples, of course. That's fine. So Abdullah is using the word queen. That's true, because when you say queen, no, I challenge you. Let's have this game here. Look at the mirror and say queen and see whether you can move the lips or not. When you say k of queen in front of the mirror, you cannot say k and then wait a second and say ween. No. So queen. That's again an example of a k sound in queen, which is labialized. Do you know what labialization is, ladies and gentlemen? Fidwa, because you asked me and your friends who showed interest too, let me know if you know what labialization is as a good example of secondary articulation. Okay, if you do, we will move, and anyway, we will move. So if you feel that you have not understood this clearly, I am, happy to repeat or to give further examples. Nathalie Leblanc is talking about lip rounding. That's true. These are maneuvers by the lips. It's either lip pursing or lip rounding. Lip status, it can be rounded and rounded. Yeah, it's lip rounding. That's true. That's true, Nathalie. Thank you. Fine. Now, if you think that there are no problems with this explanation, we can move to the other example of secondary articulation. Okay. Fine. Okay, let me see if there are examples. I'm sorry, comments. So you have gear. Okay. Okay. Now let's move on to the discussion of the other type of secondary articulation. So we talked about labialization as a good example of secondary articulation. We provide enough examples. And then we move now to palatalization. What is palatalization? Again, if labialization involves a primary consonant with a labial coloring, like palatalization is also the pronunciation of a consonant with a palatal coloring. Or sometimes palatalization can also mean that the tongue moves towards the palate. A good example is when you have like a word like keep, okay, and the rock. Look, let's write them here. Let's write them. Keep. So here, what you have is a k sound, okay, and then you have rock. Here, you have a k sound. In both cases, the k sound is a velar, okay, is a velar, a voiceless velar stop. Okay, but notice please that when you say keep, your tongue, because we have two E, the E here, which is a long vowel, it's front. We call this a front vowel. E is a front vowel. It's a high front vowel, okay, which happens to be long. So when we produce k in keep, the tongue is not purely palatal. It has this tendency to move towards the palate. Keep. You don't place your tongue where you usually place it when you produce rock. Okay? So when you say rock, it's in its normal place. It's a velar consonant. But when this velar consonant comes before a front vowel, it has to move a little bit. Why? Because the human mind anticipates the production of a vowel which is front vowel, and therefore the tongue also moves, like that. It's anticipation. If you want to understand this clearly, okay, just say, alternate, repeat, keep, rock, and focus on where you put your tongue. You will notice that your tongue changes the position for the pronunciation of k as you move from keep to rock. Why? It's because here you anticipate a front vowel, but here you don't anticipate a front vowel. In fact, you have a back vowel here, and then you have a rock that is not influenced by frontness. So it's not palatalized. Donc, in keep, we can see we have evidence of palatalization. Because the tongue moves a little bit forward to touch the hard palate. Ladies and gentlemen, if you still, I'm talking to the students here who do not know what a palate is or what a velum is, because I assume that you know these things. If you don't, please ask me to explain to you what the difference is for, you see, so I will explain to you these things. But an excellent example, or the language that is always cited to illustrate palatalization is the Russian language, where you have clear cases of palatalization. It means what? It means you have a consonant, and when you have a front vowel after that consonant, for example, you have a l sound, a liquid l in Russian. In Russian, there is a l sound, okay? But when this sound is followed with an e or an a or whatever, okay, there is, the l is pronounced with a palatal coloring. It's like li, the l is, the tongue raises to touch the soft palate. I think the word for table is stol, and this table is stoli. It's, you can clearly see that the tongue advances towards the hard palate. That's why we refer to it as palatalization. Okay, fine. So this is the idea. Si Mustafa is giving us an example here. How about the phrase this year, which is pronounced as by some Americans as this year? That's a very good case of palatalization. This is a very good case. All of you, please concentrate on this example provided by Si Mustafa. The reason why I, because this is a classical example that is cited in many references to argue for the existence of palatalization in American English. The only reason why I decided not to evoke these sentences is that this is the domain of phonology. Okay, but since you brought it up, Si Mustafa, yeah, we have a good case of palatalization, but palatalization that results from a phonological process. This is good. So this year, S is what? It's an alveolar. Yes or no? Y is what? It's a palatal glide. So S. In this year, you have S, and next to it, you have Y. S year. This year. Okay? S here, which is alveolar, anticipates that there will be a Y sound, which is palatal, back. What happens? S ما كتنطقش في بلاصتو كيتجر حدا البلاصه اللي كنطقوا فيها ي. So that's why we obtain this year. علاش the Americans would say this year, some Americans, I mean, this year. Again, because sh is what? We talked about that in the videos. Sh is a palatal fricative. I is a palatal glide. بجوج بهم palatal. S is an alveolar. So what happens? The glide attracts the place of articulation of S and makes it sh. An excellent case of palatalization, but from a phonological perspective. But you can still use this as an example, ladies and gentlemen, even when you do phonetics, because what is interesting for you is the articulation of a sound. So I think we are done with this. So the language to be quoted, apart from this English example and apart from these examples that I have given you, there is an additional language, which is Russian. For those of you who are interested in this phonological process of palatalization. So Russian is an excellent language, an excellent example where you find L becoming Y, something like that, okay? Good. So far, my friends, we have discussed two examples of what we call secondary articulation. نعاودها بالدارجة عافاكم شنو هي هاد secondary articulation. مين تاعنا secondary articulation? Secondary articulation is simply the pronunciation of the sound in the normal way, like p, t, g, consonant اللي هو consonant عادي. ولكن في نفس الوقت وحنا كنبرونونسيو هذاك لو ك ت ب اتسيترا في نفس الوقت كنديروا شي موفمون في شي بلاصه اخرى في الجهاز الصوتي اللي هو the vocal tract. مثلا عندي ك اش كندير كان برونونسي ك ولكن في نفس الوقت كنحرك هادو دونك جوبتيان ك. لاحظوا معايا عافاكم الناس راه بزاف ديال الناس كيوقع عليهم الكونفيوجن كيسحب ليهم secondary articulation كان برونونسيو ك وكنصبروا شي شويه عاد كنديروا او. كيقول لك شنو الفرق بين ك وانت ك و؟ شنو الفرق بين ت اند ت و؟ كاين فرق بيان سور. فهمتي فاش كنفرقوهم we obtain two consonants or consonant and vowel. هنا لا في secondary articulation خصهم يتنطقوا في نفس الوقت. I'm sorry I have used darija here because we have friends here who may not really understand these technical words in English, especially the words that relate to phonetics. Okay, donc هضرنا على labialization, هضرنا على palatalization. Before we move to the other izations, by the way, wherever there, look at this, wherever there is an ization, كتسموا ization processes. Wherever there is ization, it means that you have the consequences, usually secondary articulation. You see, usually I say, because spiratization is not, it's a manner feature. Anyway, when you have a place of articulation and next to it is ization, like lips, labialization, palatalization, velarization, pharyngealization, all these are, examples of secondary articulation. Please, ladies and gentlemen, I understand that when you want to put the phonetic symbol for secondary articulation, okay, let's do it this way. Let me explain this way. Let's start with the k sound and the t sound and the m sound. Okay? The sound that you have in nakul, tu, and muha. In order to distinguish them from k, it's not nakil, it's nakul. It's not tu, it's not u, something like this, it's tu. From the beginning you're round. It's not miha, it's muha. شنو هو الفرق في l'écriture في la transcription phonétique? It's very easy. هنا we are talking about labialization. Labialization الرمز ديالها هو حرف الواو و. You see? So كنكتبوا واحد و, we write a small و here. Okay? So in phonetics, if you have this question, what's this? You will simply say that, is this secondary articulation? Yes. How do you know? Because you have an extra symbol here. Okay? That's secondary articulation. What type of secondary articulation? Because you have w, and if you want to say w, you need your lips. So it's labial. It's labial. So it's what? Hey, secondary articulation can do like ization. So it's labialization. Okay? Two into it's what? It's again labialization because you have this small symbol here. في المقي to small symbol هنايا secondary articulation. And here, since it's w, الرمز ديال lips. Or because we say w by lips. So it's what? It's labialized. M, again, you have a small w here. This is a secondary articulation. What type of secondary articulation? It's also labialization because I have w here. Is that okay, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. Okay. Mustafa, diacritic marks can be combined with the letters to add tone and phonetic details such as secondary articulation. I would say, Mustafa, I would not really use a diacritic here. But diacritic has more to do with commas like these or underscore or. But when you write letters like this, it's still phonetic transcription because there are phonemes that are like this. So I don't think this has to do. It's not diacritic in the sense of the term. Okay. So I'm afraid it's not really. It's a superscript assembly. Let's say that's true. This is superscript w. This is superscript. Super means upper. Script means l'écrit script. Okay. This is superscript. A diacritic has more to do with symbols with that we put, for example, to mark stress or to mark when you have, for example, when you don't have a software that writes pharyngalization, you use underscore, whatever. I mean, underlining and everything. So these are superscripts, of course. Alhamdulillah. Okay. So we are done with this. Now we move to how we can transcribe palatalized consonants. What is palatalization? Very easy. فيها ization? Yes. فيها palatal اللي هي place of articulation? Yes. إذن عندي secondary articulation. I repeat. Palatalization is secondary articulation. Of what? Of any sound that has this palatal coloring. Okay? For example, let's take a word like the Russian word L. This is this is L. Phonetic transcription of L is something like this. Okay, look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Palatalization is indicated with a y sound here. My friends here who have asked me to talk about secondary articulation, this symbol, please, يمكن عندي هنا quelques-uns اللي ما قراوش هذا الشيء قبل. This symbol here, هذا ماشي ج, this is a y sound in International Phonetic Alphabet. Okay, so this is a y sound. هذا هو هذا بالعربية. This one. And I is what? It's a in phonetic in the description, it's a palatal glide. So because you have a superscript, we have a small symbol here upwards, and since this is لو كان هذا غادي نسميوه labialization حيت هذا labial, mais هذا c'est un palatal. Donc qu'est-ce qu'on dit؟ donc كنقولوا هذه this is secondary articulation. كيفاش عرفتها secondary articulation? Because you have this little symbol here. And what type of secondary articulation? Because here is a palatal, I am speaking of now of palatalization. Okay, palatalization. Nice. Okay, diacritic, we call it diacritic. Okay, so we talked about that. This page allows you to easily type phonetic transcription of English words in the IPA phonetic alphabet. You can edit your text. Oh, that's really nice. So thank you, Si Mustafa, but we would love to see the page that you are suggesting. Fuad Zamari, is he teaching at FPN? If the question is about me, then no. But my best friends are professors there, and they are doing a good job. Allah يعاونهم. Okay, Si Mustafa Murshid, on your document, email, message, etc. Okay, I didn't know this. Thank you for, for this suggestion, Si Mustafa. I will check, and maybe if I find out how to use it, I can share this with our friends here. Fidwa, perhaps that's Fidwa. Yes, thank you, teacher. I understand what you explained. Thank you. I'm glad you do. So, and so far we have talked about two examples of secondary articulation. We have talked about labialization. We have talked about palatalization. There is another type of interesting secondary articulation that I could find in English, that exists in English. It's not me who found it anyway. That I could find means I could think of now in English. Okay, let me write. Maybe a sip of water will do us good. Okay, so let's move on, please. Very interestingly, there is another. Now we are going back in the mouth. We started from the lips, and then we are moving into the mouth, station by station. We talked about the lips, and then we talk about the palate. Now we will talk about the other secondary articulation, which is known as velarization. 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 What is velarization? You should answer the question now. If labialization means to pronounce a sound with a labial coloring, and palatalization is to pronounce a sound with a palatal coloring, then velarization means that you have a sound that gets at the coloring of the velar consonant. شنو معنات velar consonant اللي عندنا؟ sorry عندنا ك and g. Typically, velarization is most seen, or the soft palate. Yes, that's true. So it's the velum or the soft palate. So we have the palate, which is the hard palate, and the velum is also known as the soft palate, just in case you confuse these two words, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so here we have in English, for example, many of you, especially the ones who have recently been introduced to linguistics, I am sure your professor talked about the difference between the so-called dark L and the so-called clear L. Okay, for example, when you have a word like, oh, this may not be pronounced. Okay, let's say. Okay, and then you have look at this. and this. The L of also is pronounced differently from the L, the first L of legal. Legal. It's not legal. No, we don't say legal. No, that's not good. That's not true. So it's legal. I'm sorry. Here, it's not also. Also, no, it's all. L. This one is L, and this one is L. So as you can see, there are differences between the two types of L sounds. And you have the same thing in Arabic in the Quran. For example, when you have Allah, for example, when you have lillahi, it's not lillahi, it's not billahi, it's not billahi, it's billahi, lillahi. But you have وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَعَلَى اللَّهِ. Okay, here it's Allah is pronounced in the Allah in Allah is different, is pronounced in two different ways, depending on whether the previous vowel is front vowel or back vowel. So L here is like the L's that we have here. All right. This in this case we say that this is in legal and leader, for example. It's not leader. Do you say leader? You are a good leader. If you say you are a good leader, it means that you are a very authoritative leader. No, I'm just joking. So we say leader, but we say also, you say almond, you say false. It's not false, it's false. Okay, so here what does it mean? This means that we have normally a L. What is L? C'est quoi L in phonetics? It's a voiced lateral liquid. Voiced lateral liquid. علاش سميناه lateral? Because when you pronounce it, you block one side of your mouth. The air is blocked from one side, and you allow it to move from just the other side. For example, when you say say it loudly. إلا قلتوا لا دابا هادو الناس اللي كيشوفونا يقولوا لا for a long time, you will realize that the air moves just from one side. The other side is blocked. So it's called a lateral liquid, and the tip of the tongue in producing L touches the alveolar ridge. لا كنحطوا اللسان ديالنا في البلاصه اللي كنطقوا فيها ت and د. ل. اوكي، وكنسدوا واحد المنطقه هنايا، واحد الجهه، دونك داكشي علاش سميناه lateral. Now هذا this is in case you want to produce a normal sound which is L. Now there are situations, as I told you, in the Quran, as I give you the example, but as you know, and also in English, as is the case here, the L sound has two pronunciations. إلا كان هذاك ل مفخمة, it means what? Why is it called مفخمة? Okay, it's called. سي محمد خربوش says تفخيم وترقيق. That's absolutely right. The scholars who described this were accurate. It's because when you produce L, you look at this, please. L, you put the tip of the tongue on the alveolar ridge, and then you do the blocking. No problem. Blocking anyway is there, whether it's L or L, there is a blocking from one side. But notice, please, that when you move from L to L, what happens? The tip of the tongue moves backwards to touch the velum. You see? L. And when it touches the velum, this place becomes wide. كتولي عريضة هاد البلاصة هنايا. وبالتالي كنسمعوا داك الصوت ديال الغليظ. الله. Okay? So this is called velarization. So we have a process of velarization. The best example is the movement from a normal L called clear L to a dark L, which is the L which is heavy. In English, normally, a dark L is after back vowels like O, like A. Back vowels are always followed. When the L follows a back vowel, it becomes automatically velarized. So we're talking here about velarization. Okay. في كلمة الله لا على الفتحة وكسرها وفي نهاية الكلمة مثلا إن الله لله. No, No, in laha, if you are following the Moroccan, the Warsh way of reciting, it's not even inna. The a of inna is not even in Morocco. If the mosque, for example, when they read the hizb, it's in laha. It's not even inna Allah or inna Allah. So it's not fatha kasra. We're not talking. We talk in terms of vowels. Okay, lillahi, because you have e there. Lillahi ma fi samawati wal ard. Okay. Okay. Bismillah. It's not Bismillah, it's Bismillah because you have E there. Before Lahi, you have E. So this is the idea. Okay. Good. Mustafa, I don't know if you are talking about that, but this is good to talk about. This is a good way of exchanging ideas. The good thing about doing linguistics is that you have the opportunity to give examples from different languages and where possible, of course, and different texts, and why not the Holy Quran too. Okay, nice. Good. So you know now what velarization is. For the English velarization, look at this. We write like this. This is, if you see this, the phonetic symbol L, it's a normal L, it's a clear L. Clear here, normal. C'est clair. هذا L. ما فيهاش لبس. But when you say L, that's dark L. Dark L is marked with, here, see Mustafa, we have a diacritic. Look at this. Something like this. This means that you have a L which is dark. هذا L، هذا ما يدخلش مع الت، لأن الت هي هذه كتكون هذه هكذا. Dark L, it's like this. You understand? So this is another example of a secondary articulation. This time we refer to it, and so it's lesen means to read, from lire, okay? But they have allemal, the L. So I think the pattern is more like the English language. Of course, the two languages are historically sisters, of course. Okay, Saad Laraji, when do we recognize if the sound is velarized or pharyngalized for dark sounds? Here it's just by hearing them, of course. When they are dark L, a dark L is audible. It's clearly distinguished. If you say Allah, I would know whether it's dark or not. And a clear Allah is also, it's never an Allah, it's an L sound. Okay. Now, if you are talking about the rule, then the rule is that generally clear L enjoys wider distribution. It means you can find it in different positions. It's the default. Okay, pronunciation is L, but when L follows, okay, a back vowel like A, like O, you see, almond, all, almost. So whenever it follows a back consonant or vowel, but usually it's also back consonant like K. K is a back consonant. Article, K, article. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. سمحوا لي. Compare, باش نوريكم باللي c'est pas justement la voyelle, c'est aussi la consonne. إلا كانت la consonne اللي قبل حتى هي back. شنو كنعنيو back consonant؟ back consonant اللي هي كتبرونونسا من الفيلر لتحت، كنسميوهم back consonants. صافي؟ غنجيو distinctive features and we'll talk about that. So compare for example possible. شوفوا ل possible عفاكم. Possible. No. I'm sorry. I'm afraid that it's not this. Yes. Think of the sound L of black. It's not black. It's a black color. We don't say that. It's a black color. You see? Like the color of my shirt here. Black color. ولكن شوفوا معايا إلا قلت لكم clear. It's clear. L is a little bit, velarized. علاش? Because it comes after K. And K is a back vowel. So L is velarized. Par contre, on the contrary, when you have black, it's not black because B is very front. It's a frontal. It's the B is كنسميوه anterior sound. B. هو اللي خارج كاع بعيد على back. It's not back at all. It's very front. So the L will not become L. So it's not black, it's black. but clear, it's not clear, it's clear. Look, you will have this feeling that it's a L. Okay, so for the derivation of the rule, the students here who are doing some phonology, then dark L usually follows a back sound, a sound which is, as we will see later on, which is marked by the feature plus back, be it a consonant or be it or a vowel. I gave you the example of the two. Okay, goes. Yes, we say block, see Mustafa, we say block because there is an O after. So in order to complement the rule, so we say either before or after. Anyway, you have a block there. But look at this, Mustafa. Interestingly, just to prove what I'm saying, you have the word block. It's a lot here because after L is a back vowel, which is O. Let's try a word like blink. هي ما بقاش blink. It's blink. Because what comes after this time is a front vowel. So the rule applies. So the rule, to refine the rule, it's either before or after. Anyway, when the L is sensitive to its neighborhood, if in the neighborhood, either immediately before or immediately after, there is something which is back, be it a consonant or a vowel, then it's a dark L. It means it has the secondary articulation of velarized. Okay. Okay, Nathalie Leblanc, can we also say that the two types of L in Arabic are not contrastive, unlike the sounds tube, tob? And I'm coming to that, Nathalie Leblanc. This is not velarization or velarization in the proper sense of the term, but rather that's pharyngealization. We will come to that. That's the last type of secondary articulation we will come to. And I will have to say something about it. Thank you, Nathalie, for expecting or for anticipating this. Okay. My friends here, especially those who made the request for me to talk about this, shall I assume that you have understood these processes, these izations, these types of secondary articulation? So we have seen labialization, we have given examples, come back to the video to see it. We have talked about what? Palatalization, we have given examples. Now we are talking about velarization. And we are given this example. This is a very famous example from the Quranic Arabic, from from the Quran, and also from, the English language, and from Dutch also, from Dutch. Because I have given you evidence of the two words, the two L's in there. Okay, shall we move on, please? Okay, there is one thing we would like to talk about. Okay, Mustafa Morshid, could you talk about exam questions on these types of articulation? Yeah, I'll talk about that. See, Mustafa, just in case I forget, please, when I give you the room for questions, I'm afraid I will forget this type of question. See, Mustafa, very important one. Please remind me to talk about it. When I am done with this last ization, with this last type of secondary articulation, I'll take over. I'll take up that question and elucidate upon it. Okay, now let's move on to the last, and this is an interesting thing. Okay, someone is disturbing here. Wait a minute. Okay. Fine. Sorry. Now let's move on to the last example of Anna Karuto. Hello, Anna Karuto. You are making your first appearance here. God knows where you are from, but you are welcome anyway. Thank you, NGCFGG. Weird names, but nice people. Okay, never mind. So let's talk about the last ization types. maybe some stuff, we never know. Okay, good. Your academic companion is growing internationally. That's a pride. Thank you. Anyway, let's talk about the last type of secondary articulation that we will consider. And this is unlikely to be if in the course of phonetics, I'm talking to the students who asked me, if it's just on English, then this may not be of interest. But still, we have this problem in English. Let me say something about it. Okay, nice. So the last type of secondary articulation is called pharyngealization. Pharyngealization. La pharyngalisation. Okay. Pharyngealization. Pharyngealization. If labialization comes from the lips, and labialization, if labialization comes from the lips, and palatalization comes from the palate, and velarization comes from the velum, pharyngealization comes from the pharynx. Le pharynx in French, the pharynx in English. What is the pharynx? The pharynx, my friends, is the tube, the tube that you have here along, in our throat, a long tube. This tube that we have in the throat here, beyond, the end of the mouth, it's a tube there that it's called the pharynx. This pharynx, this part, can get, so it's normally maybe like this in width, but it widens. It widens because the brain sends a message there and asks it to widen, and it widens. And when it widens, it means it becomes wide. كتوسع هاد البلاصة هنايا. And when it becomes wide, the sound becomes becomes emphasized and becomes louder. Okay, that's why we have a difference between t in Arabic. We have t and we have ta. What's the difference between الطاء and التاء؟ التاء ما كيوقع والو هنايا، ولكن فاش كنقولوا الطاء راه هاد البلاصه كتوسع هكا. راه التاء والطاء نفس place of articulation، نفس manner of articulation، نفس الفويسين. فهمتيني؟ التاء والطاء ما كيختلفوش في هاد لي تخوا هادو. فين كيختلفوا في هاد البلاصه، يا اما كتوسع باش تولي مفخمه، تفخيم، الفخامه زعما هذا انتفاخ، ولا كتبقى عاديه هاد البلاصه. دونك هنايا when I say ط ولا ص، السيف versus الصيف، هنا there is a difference. What's the difference between sin and صاد in Arabic? S and ص. What's the difference between t and ط? There is no difference in articulation. The only difference is that in ط هاد الحروف المفخمه it involves a widening of the pharynx. هاد الشيء علاش كنسميو هاد البروسيس هاد secondary. It's a secondary articulation. لأن it's I say س مزيان, it's primary articulation. When I say ص like صيف, I pronounce س, but at the same time I make this part wide لداخل. هنا كتوسع البلاصه وكنسميو كيولي سين كيولي صاد. Okay, nice. It's like when you are in a tight room, small room, 2-meter room, for example. You speak and you hear yourself in a normal way. But when you are in an empty, large room, the sound, you hear the echo. That's exactly the same principle. Okay, so here we are talking about the pharynx, and because the secondary articulation is done here, we talk about pharyngealization. Just as the u from the lips, we have labialization. Okay, so here we have the famous examples in Arabic, because in Arabic, for those of you who are doing phonology, in Arabic, pharyngealization is phonemic. It's contrastive. Okay, it's distinctive. It's contrastive. It's phonemic. It means what? It means when I have a word and I take the non-pharyngalized sound and I insert in its place the pharyngalized sound, I obtain a totally different word. Okay? What's that? I forgot the examples from Moroccan Arabic. I have only saif and saif. Okay? Saif, saif. What do I have here? Sara wa Sara. You know? سار وصار صار. الصوت. You have صوت, and you have this. We have changed this. We have changed this. You have. We have. We have صبر أغوار موضوع ما، أو ممكن نقولوا صبر الأغوار المفهوم الفلاني، ولكن you have صبر صبر. Okay, you see, so you have this صبر أو صبرة, you know, some would say صبيرة as well. ظل لا السي محمد الخلفاوي, no, ظل it's just maybe ماشي هذاك. شوف look at this. You have أذل فلان فلانا، أي انتقص من شأنه. Okay, أذله. ولكن if he showed him the wrong way, أضله. So we have the أذل أضل. Okay, أضل. So as you can see here, yes, the and the, they are the same, but they differ just in pharyngealization. In Arabic, pharyngealization is not phonetic, it's phonemic, because if we change the pharyngalized with the non-pharyngalized to obtain another word. Okay? Thank you, Sil Khalfawi. Barakallahu fik. Oh yes, yeah. Look at what Fidwa is saying. And this is, by the way, Fidwa, that word exists in all varieties of Amazigh. It exists in Tashhid, it exists in Amazigh, and also in Tarifit. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to say a fly in Amazigh dialects, well, let's call them varieties, you call a fly easy. Easy means a fly. Okay? And if you pharyngalize this z, you make it like it becomes easy. Okay? Look at this. I am using the diacritic Si Mustafa here. Intifinah, even in the Amazigh alphabet in Intifinah, you have a word, this word, which means fly. It's exactly this. You write it like this, Intifinah, easy. But you have another word which refers to what? To the blood, to the la vésicule biliaire. Okay? What do we call la vésicule biliaire? Yeah, I think it's the bladder. Okay? So you call it. Look at how they write it in Amazigh. So they are the same, but in order to say that this is easy, not easy, you just put something like this here. Okay? So yes, Fidwa, this is an excellent example of pharyngealization in Amazigh, which is secondary articulation, except that in Amazigh, like these examples, and also in Arabic, like the examples I gave you, here, when you switch from a pharyngalized to a non-pharyngalized, you obtain a totally different word, which means that these are two independent phonemes. Okay? Elixir, thank you very much. Marhaba. What? Ta'irun. I don't think that there is ta'irun in Arabic. No, the ta'irun does not exist. You probably mean tha'irun, and that's not the word but a tha and a ta, no, this is not secondary articulation, because tha is not pronounced in the same way, in the same place as a ta. You understand? Tha is an interdental fricative, and t is an alveolar stop. So no. Tinun and Tainun. Thank you, Nathalie. Nathalie Leblanc is providing examples from Arabic. Thank you, because people took you for being a French lady. So some of them might be wondering how come that you know these words. So you have teen, which means figs, and you have teen. You have this for pharyngalization. teen and طين. هنا ماشي بحال ثائر and طائر. teen, طين. It's clear. So this is a good case in of pharyngalization being phonemic, being contrastive, okay, resulting in independent phonemes. In English, we can also talk about pharyngalization, but in English, pharyngalization does not result in independent phonemes. In English ما عندناش تفخيم، ما كيشكل ليناش، ما كيعطيناش فونيم بوحدو. ماشي بحال العربية، إلا فخمنا واحد الحرف كنصدقوا في كلمة أخرى. In English no، كاين البلايص اللي كنفخموا فيهم الحروف ولكن ما كيعطيوناش كلمة جديدة، كيعطيونا غير برونونسياسيون جديدة. نعطيكم دي زيكزامبل. Okay, I have produced some here. Let me see. Yes, like when I say, for example, look at this. Sorry. You have the word. You have this word. Sorry. Look at these words. Seek. Look at how I pronounce seek here. What is the simple past of seek? Is it suit? No, it's salt. So. عندنا بحال الصاد. اوكي؟ حتى إلا قلت لكم كتبوا بالعربية سي كتكتبوا الس بالسين انكونسيامون. إلا قلت لك كتب لي الباسي ولا كتب لي باسي بالعربية غادي تكتب لي الصوت بوتيتر الأغلبية كتبوها بالصاد. اوكي؟ دونك salt. This pronunciation is different from this pronunciation here. Why do we say seek? We say salt. Again, علاش? Why? These changes in languages do not happen randomly. No, there is an explanation. Okay? For seek, you can have seek, you can have bless. It means s is pronounced in different places. No problem. ولكن when a s sound follows or is followed by, it's either it has a back vowel before or a back vowel after, s is pronounced as s, and this is a very good case of pharyngalization in English. But pharyngalization in English does not result in a new phoneme. In Arabic, yes, it results in a new phoneme. In English, no. In English, it's because it occurs in specific environments. It's influenced. هذه كتولي مفخمة بحكم يا إما جات قبل une voyelle اللي هي back ولا جات موراها. Okay? Like when you say boss. The s here is not a s. It's a s. Okay? Here it's a s. Okay, also because this comes before this, before back vowel. Here it comes after the back vowel. So whenever a s sound occurs in the vicinity, that is to say in the neighborhood of a back element, especially a vowel, then it becomes pharyngalized. And this is a very good case of secondary articulation. Okay? Secondary articulation here means you pronounce the word like s in a normal way, but you add to it the widening here at the level of the pharynx. That's why we refer to it as pharyngalization. Okay, nice. Pharyngalization, Mustafa says, Sada and Sada, thank you. You are right. Sada and Sada, you are right. Sada, for example, Sada al-Waqaru baynahum, مزيان. ولكن صاد زيد الأسد. You are right. You mean hunting versus predominated. That's absolutely right, Mustafa. توبة, توبة. Do we say توبة أو طوبة? Okay, فإذا I don't know, Tuba and Tuba. That's Moroccan Arabic. Yes, in Moroccan Arabic, I agree with you because you have Tuba. How do you Tuba? You have Tuba means piety and the decision to renounce all the sins and the deeds, the bad deeds, and maybe worship in full faith. Versus Tuba in Moroccan Arabic, Tuba Skar, for example. And this is a very good example. Tuba and Tuba. I agree with you, Faiza, to not to a large extent. I fully agree with you. Sada, that's true. Si Mustafa, pharyngalization is a phonemic in Arabic and allophonic in English. That's true. In English, it's just a noun, an allophone, as we saw in the previous video. An allophone is predicted by a rule because some sounds change the pronunciation because they occur in some specific contexts. That's the idea, Si Mustafa. Thank you. Okay, now that we have talked about these things, I think we still have 20 minutes to go. If this live is meant to be a 2-hour live session, then I would welcome, your suggestions and your questions about this and about other things. But let's finish. Let's exhaust the questions about the issue of today, which is the issue of secondary articulation. And this is a call for students here, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Mustafa, I'll be there. I'll be there to answer this very important question. But if we have students here who still grapple with, who still have problems, with phonetics and with the place of articulation, manner of articulation, etc., so they can just ask their questions here, and I will be very glad to react to them. Okay. Nice. Okay. Josephine, Elvin. Okay. Grace, very informative. Thank you. Thank you, Josephine. Very nice names. Very nice people. Very weird names. Very nice people. Okay. It just happens that you withhold your identity, but that's very nice. So what is important is the fact that you are a follower and that you are a friend. Thank you. But people were asking me about Nathalie Leblanc. I don't know what is interesting, what is attractive about this. Maybe the French way, or the choice of the name. All right. But finally, we found out who Nathalie was, and now with Josephine, God knows who she is. So maybe it takes some time before we discover who the person or this friend is. Thank you. All right. Do we have questions about phonetics here before we answer the question asked by Si Mustafa? Now, for the exam questions, there are a variety of ways a teacher can ask questions about secondary articulation. If it is a phonetics section, the title, the part of linguistics is phonetics, then the teacher here will just, I forgot that. Sorry. Mustafa, سي مصطفى غادي نأجل هذا السؤال، هذا الجواب غادي نجاوب على la question ديال nasalization which we have missed. Thank you, Fidwa, for reminding me of that. Yes, I should have talked about that before. Thank you very much. All right. So let's just okay. Let's because I forgot to mention nasalization. I was more interested in place of articulation, but you are absolutely right, Fidwa. Nasalization is another excellent example of secondary articulation. That's true. What is nasalization? Again, nasalization comes from عقلوا على غير azation وشوفوا la partie اللي فيها بحال nasalization, labialization. So nasalization reminds us of the nose. Okay, which means what? In nasalization, it means that we have a sound, a consonant or a vowel, okay? But in nasalization, it's mostly a vowel. عندنا une voyelle اللي هي normale, for example, A, U, I, etc. But at the same time, when we articulate this vowel, we articulate it with a lower with the absence of a velic closure. What is a velic closure? A velic closure is the process or the fact of lowering the velum. عندنا واحد لابارتي حدا الحلق سميتها the velum. It's the soft palate, but it extends until the uvula. Okay, uvula هو هذاك الحلق اللي هذاك. If you say you will see it hanging loose. Okay, so نشرحوا بعد شنو هي velic closure and how a nasal consonant is produced. A nasal consonant like m, for example, is produced by opening. شوف عندنا this is the tongue, something like this, and then we have هذاك الحلقة اللي عندنا هنايا كتسمى uvula. Okay, this one. And then we have the esophagus, and we have here the pharynx. Okay, and then we have the nose here. Excuse هاد الصورة البشعة for the mouth, I don't know. Well, let's say that this is a human head. So here, the nose, we have the nasal cavity here. Okay. So here what we have is two possibilities. When the air comes from the lungs, it can either come directly from the mouth, من هنايا, or it can choose to come through the nose. It comes through the nose إذا كان هذا هابط. كنسمى the velum is lowered. هاد لابارتي هادي كتهبط وكتخلي الهواء يدوز من nose. كنقولوا there is no velic closure. If there is a velic closure يعني هذه كترفع كتسد هنا الهواء كيدوز من الفم. Okay, we are talking about the velic closure. Okay, it's a piece of art. Yes, Natalie. Yes. Okay. Yeah, you're talking about the name, perhaps. Okay. Never. You're talking about this. Yeah, it's like the wog of Jean Birko Gleason. Okay. Never mind. I'm not good at drawing. So nasal consonants and the nasalized vowels are produced when there is no velic closure. No velic closure means the air comes and moves freely through the nose. ما كاينش داك الكلوجر. إلا كاين الكلوجر, it means it will be produced through the mouth. هذه صافي ساليناها. Now, what is nasalization? Okay. Nasalization means that we produce a vowel, a, u, e, whatever, a vowel. But at the same time, because when you say إلا قلت you will find out that you are blocking the air from flowing through the nose. All the air comes through the mouth. You understand? Now, when you, in French, for example, you have something like this, you pronounce it as, it's not bien, it's not bien, it's bien. When you pronounce bien and you extend this for a long time, you will feel that the sound is both through your mouth, comes both through your mouth and through your nose. Bien. Okay? Simple. If you say simple and you extend the after simple, now Spanish does not involve but that's a translation because they look alike. But in French, we have this phenomenon of nasalization, well known. I mean, you can see it, and it's a phoneme. The is a phoneme in French. Okay, and chien, it's not un chien, it's not un chia. Le chien, it's not le chien, it's not le chien, it's le chien. The there. So what happens in these types of this is historical. Let me explain to you. In French, ladies and gentlemen, historically, the French language was just like English, like other languages when it comes to this type of consonant. So, chien comes from, à un moment donné, it was chienne. Et c'est pour ça que le féminin du chien, c'est la chienne, without un. No, not at all. What happens is that historically, when the vowel un or e, meets double consonants, nothing happens. علاش؟ لأن هادو قويين بجوج بهم. Okay? So they cannot delete. ما كيطيحوش هادو. Chienne, le féminin ديال le chien, c'est la chienne, and n, c'est prononcé. Le mien, le tien, le sien in French. Mais quand on a le féminin, c'est la sienne. Le n كيبقى تما. Il ne subit pas la chute. Donc, it does not undergo deletion. ما كيطيحش داك n كيبقى. La sienne. Le mien, le livre, c'est le mien. Mais la bouteille, c'est la mienne. Okay? Good. هنا عندنا les deux n, they are solid, they are okay, they are robust. There is no problem with that. Okay? And historically, even when you have le chien, just one, it was okay. But as time elapsed, what happened? The n of chien, okay, the n of chien, okay, deleted. Why? It's because the A has this nasal coloring. The A was nasalized. ما محتاجينش نبرونسيو nasalized A ونبرونسيو معاها لا nasal اللي هي N. Do you understand this? That's French. This is French. Can we call it denasalization? Well, which is more natural, Nathalie Leblanc? This is a theoretical issue. Is it nasalization or is it denasalization? I think it's more natural to call it, in this case of French, it's nasalization rather than denasalization. Okay? If you are talking, Nathalie, about the deletion of n, then it's automatically the n deletion. When you have a consonant which is suppressed, it's not, it's the process is the process of deletion. Okay? And when you delete, you cannot delete this, but over time, the n of n, this was anticipated in the pronunciation of the vowel, so this was pronounced as a here. علاش في هذاك لو ان مدغومه في هذه. شنو وقع؟ هذا it was deleted in pronunciation. في لا prononciation لاحظوا معايا. في لا prononciation لو شيان ما كنطقوش لو ان. بالحق كيتكتب. اشنو كيعني هذا الشيء؟ هذا الشيء كيعني بلي ا مومون دوني في لو باسي لي فرونسي كانوا كينطقوا هذا. اوكي كانوا كينطقوه. ومن بعد ما لقاو في لا لونغ باللي هاد لا نازاليتي جات هنا فوق لا فويال ما عندهم ما يديروا بهذا طلقوه حتى هما في لا برونونسياسيون وخلوه في ليكريتور لان ليكريتور ما كتموتش ليكريتور كتبقى هكا ما كتشونجاش بزاف ماشي بحال لا برونونسياسيون. اوكي good. As in the word confiture. Oh yes, yeah. Nathalie here is talking about socio-linguistic behavior of borrowing, socio-morphological behavior, morpho-sociological behavior of borrowing, which is natural in languages. And when we borrow, we adapt to the system, to our phonological system, to the system that we have. That's why, so we borrow a word that does not involve the sounds that we have in our mother tongue, but when we take the word, we adapt it. It has to fit. Okay, we domesticate it in a sense. So here, yes, I fully agree with you because confiture in French, we have con, the on there is nasalized, but when you bring it to Arabic, it's either le confiture or le confiture or whatever. Thank you, Nathalie. That's a clear example. Thank you very much. In Spanish, we add a tilde, yes, in words like niño, niña, mañana. Yeah, but that's a different direction that the noise, that the nasal has taken, because the nasal has undergone. This is a very good case of palatalization. Si Mustafa, mañana. Okay, here this in Spanish there is this because it was manana, je sais pas, mais you have the there that was deleted even in writing, but it survived on the sound. So it's not really nasalization, it's more palatalization because they represent the near sound. Okay, good. Si Mohammed Al says, hello, professor. Thanks for the interesting session. Could you please talk about the concept of retroflex when pronouncing? I will talk about that, Si Mohammed Al right away. But let me finish, please. So I have two questions waiting for me. One by Si Mustafa about the exam. But before I answer Si Mustafa, I have to answer also Si Mohammed, but not until I am done with this. So nasalization, for those of you who want to know what it is, those students who are at the beginning of maybe taking first course in linguistics, nasalization very simply means that you have a vowel. Yeah, you have a vowel, a, o, e, whatever, and this vowel is pronounced not in a normal way, because the normal way of pronouncing a vowel is to block the air from coming from the nose. in كاين داك الفيلي closure كنخليو الهواء يدوز غير من الفم. But when you have a nasalized vowel like in chien, you lower the velic closure and the air moves from the mouth and also from the nose. Chien. You feel that the nose, you feel some cold air here in the nose, showing that there is air coming up, but also it comes from the nose. This is a good case of secondary articulation. علاش? Because you say but at the same time you are making the air come through the nose. In English, we have, for example, a word like, look at this. Let's compare these two words in English. Seed, the seeds, les grains, the seeds, البذرات, and then we have this word, seen. When you pronounce the word like seed, you feel that you block the air from coming to the nose, through the nose, I'm sorry. So seed, no problem. إلا قلتيها for 5 or 6 seconds, look at this, seed. The air moves only through the mouth. Is this nasalization? No, it's not. It's a purely 100% oral vowel, okay? Now, when you say seen, that's different. Seen. When you say see of seen for a long time, you will feel that the sound also comes from the nose. علاش? Because here you have a nasal consonant. When you say seen, you anticipate. Your mind knows that there will be a n, and it prepares for it. That's why كيفتح هذا لوتوغوت اللي كاين هنايا حيت غادي يفتحها هنايا دونك كيفتحها الاول. You understand or no? So that's why we say seen. We say that this vowel is nasalized. Why it is nasalized? Because it occurs before a nasal consonant. Here, is it nasalized? No. علاش? Because we don't have a nasal consonant. Very simply. I hope you understand, especially the students who asked me to talk about this. Nasal vowels involve both the oral cavity and the nasal cavity. In the example of chien, absolutely, Nathalie Leblanc, you are absolutely right. This is exactly the point I have been attempting to make. So thank you very much for corroborating what I have been saying for a little while. Okay, now, if this is clear, by the way, Fidwa and company, for you, I saw that you wrote Ramadan. That's true. In Ramadan or Ramadan, yes, you have that as well. Shuf, why? It's because you have n after a of Ramadan, and this is a nasalization generally occurs when you anticipate another, like when you say seem too, you seem to be nice. Seem, because you are about to pronounce m is nasal, so the vowel before it is nasalized, and this is a very good case of a nasalization process, which is an example of secondary articulation. Now, I would like to and Mustafa, we refer to this more as oral cavity rather than oral tract, because the vocal tract is everything. Okay, and nasal cavity. Okay, Nice. So Mohammed al-Zarqi is saying, hello, professor. Thanks. Could you please explain about the concepts of retroflex in pronouncing array? Thank you very much. So Mohammed, let me say that there is a class of consonants. غنشرح بجوج حوايج at the same time. You asked for one, but you will get the other one for free. So we have a class of consonants in English called liquids. What are these liquids? So we have, okay. Liquids. We have liquids here. Liquids. Liquids in English are a class of sounds that involve two major sounds. They have two major elements. K, هذا, L, and there is R. Why have they grouped them together? It's very interesting. Cross-linguistically, there is evidence that that R develops from L historically. In some languages, L is pronounced as R, like Korean. In Russian, for example, when the L is geminated, means we have تضعيف here, L, the pronunciation is R. In child language acquisition, if you say to a child, هذه اسمها كريمة, غادي يقول لك اسمها كلمة, for example. And in Terifit, for example, these are just evidence. This is evidence that these are the same. In Terifit, بلغت شي واحد سلام, سيوضاس سرام, سرام هكا. Okay? You have all, sorts of words, in Tashlihit, for example, they talk about alili, which is in Arabic dfla. In Terifit, it's eriri, for example, and so on and so forth. You have all these things. So L and R are arguably or arguably originate from the same source. They have the same mother at least, so they are the same in a sense. Okay, and they develop in different ways in different languages. Good. At the level of phonetics, because here I am answering Si Muhammad al-Zarq, this one here, this L, which is an example of a liquid, when you produce L, what happens? You necessarily block one side of your mouth, L, and you leave the other side open. That's why this liquid here is called lateral liquid. Lateral. هكا. Lateral. This is lateral liquid. شنو هي lateral in English سي محمد الزرق؟ lateral in English هي l'adjective ديال side. بغيتي تقول side, one side, the other side. The adjective is lateral. Okay? من جهة واحدة, it's unilateral. Okay? There was a dispute between you and someone. كتقولي لا أنا no وهو واخا شغله هذاك. He acted unilaterally. The dispute is unilateral, يعني from one side. Donc, L is called a lateral liquid because when we produce it, the air flows from one side and the other side is blocked. Okay? Now, the other liquid is R, and the English R and the Arabic R. The English, let's focus on the English R. In the English R, when you want to say R in English, what happens? You take your tongue, you curl it, curling, like curly hair. You curl it, كتقوس, the tip of the tongue, upwards and backwards. هكا. Upwards, backwards. That's why it's called retroflex. Retro, it means backwards. بحال كنقولوا rétroviseur ديال السيارة. Retrovisor. Retrograde. Retro means backwards. You understand? So it's retro and flex because it's flexible. Okay? Fléchir in French. You retroflex. It means it's flexible, upwards, backwards. So you have retroflex. So that's why we call this liquid here a retroflex liquid. You have written it, so I don't need to write it on the board. Okay. So, Si Mohammed Lazraq, I hope I have answered your question. Nasal vowels involved by the or yes, they do. And Natalie, in the example of chien, that's true. Oral tract, I talked about that. Also, child may say ليل is راجل. Yeah, they can say راجل واحد الراجل إلى آخره. That's true. At certain age, they do have this confusion between l and r. Okay, الغنة. I don't know the context in which you're talking about this. Mohammed Kharbosh says retroflex. That's true. As if it retracted. That's true because it's more Natalie. It's not a retraction. No. It's the tip of the tongue takes an upward and backward. It curls هكذا. Yeah, there is a little retraction, but what is important is the curling and the fact of that it is flexible. Thank you. Mohammed says it is clear. Thank you, Professor. And I'm happy it is clear. Now, let's move on to the answer by Si Mustafa, the important question. How can a professor test these secondary articulations? What form do they take in the test? Okay. Let me say something. Okay, let me not even write on the board. So the teacher can, for example, give you an exercise. Like he or she can give you a set of words and can ask you the question, this question, isolate the words where there is a secondary articulation and name the process and name it and say what it is. The student will have to look at the number of words that the teacher has given them, and then they will see if there is this superscript. For example, there is a consonant like t and there is something here. This is a good case of secondary articulation. What is it? هنا غيشوفوا هذا الحرف اللي كاين هنايا. If it's و is by the lips, labialization. If it's a y, it's palatalization. علاش? Because y is a palatal consonant. If it's here and all like this, it's a dark. If they see nasalization, سينا nasalization, how do we represent nasalization? شوف. In seeing, for example, you have an A, this is a normal A. But an A which is nasalized, and هذه. Okay? An E, like C, you have this. You see? But seen, the nasalization ديالها هي هذه. كان عندك هذا. إذا شفنا هذا فوق، شوف فوقاش ما شفتوا. Whenever you see this symbol on a vowel, it means the vowel is nasalized. Okay? So that's one exercise that the teacher can give you. Another exercise is maybe to ask you to provide examples of nasalization. Okay? And then here you will produce words like this, and you say, for example, labialization, these are the words. Palatalization, these are the words, and so on and so forth. Okay, and there are other types of exercises. Look, the advice I give to the students is once you understand what these izations or secondary articulation or anything, once you understand it, the exercise will not matter because the teacher, will just change the form of the question. You see on the final analysis. Okay, you will answer anyway. But thank you, Si Mustafa. These are the exercises that I thought about. But in phonology, the story is different. I don't know if the students here have phonology because we can still talk about the rule, the phonological rule for the derivation of nasalization, of secondary articulations. But I think since they called it secondary articulation, I think it's the phonetic component rather than the phonological component, because in phonological component they would call it as ization processes like nasalization process, etc. Okay, nice. It's very clear, Professor. I would thank you so much for your effort. Marhaba Fidwa, marhaba everyone who shows interest in this type of content. And as the exams are drawing near, I am available. Probably not very available these days, this week, because I'm involved in a lot of tasks, but I will be involved anyway. I will be available to answer your questions and to provide the necessary explanations. Okay, nice. Now, if there are no questions about this and about phonetics, then what we can do is maybe open the floor for other questions that relate to research, to academic life in general. If you are tired as I am, then we can call it a day and maybe decide to meet on another occasion. So I am here for some more time, just in case there is room for a discussion. Nathalie Leblanc says, could you please talk about the split VP hypothesis? That's probably, the only thing I can tell you about the split VP hypothesis is that it has undergone the same at a given moment in time. Nathalie Leblanc, syntacticians were busy splitting, splitting elements. I always say to my students in syntax, do whatever you like, but provide me with logical evidence. So this is exactly what linguists have done. Split VP hypothesis came to account for phenomena that the previous frameworks could not account for. Including the relation, they invented this relation of small v, VP shell, light V, and then V movement. Maybe just to introduce V movement in response to the long-standing question as to what the canonical expression is in a given language. So that's what I can say about that. Maybe we can reserve another session to talk about it, especially when I cover. I think we talked about raising and control predicate. I'll talk about WH movement first in satisfaction of the requests and the curiosity of my S5 students and the S5 students who are taking syntax. And afterwards, yes, I can reserve a session on the split infill hypothesis and also the split VP hypothesis, which which go beyond, of course, the traditional or the mainstream frameworks of just VP. So Nathalie, perhaps we need a separate session for that. Okay, just for me, for example, to provide to gather enough examples, because without examples, the discussion will be just theoretical. So I promise I will do this on another occasion. Nathalie Leblanc, thank you. Cosmic Nose, please keep the live saved. It will be saved. So Cosmic Nose, again, that's a very interesting name. That you are almost all of you are come incognito, right? But please, even if you are incognito, please share the link to this channel so that it can reach many people, or a reasonable number, a sufficient number of people. Okay. Now, Mustafa Morshid, I think we can call it a day. I was traveling and I'm tired now, and nevertheless I tried to attend. Thank you, Mustafa, for being a very faithful follower. This translates your quest for knowledge and your being eager. Inshallah, you will follow the same path as your best friend Mohammed Boysan. I hope we will see you, a professor, a colleague, so soon, inshallah. Thank you, Si Mustafa. Thank you, everyone here. If there is no question, then we conclude, because I myself am very tired. I started my day early and I ended it so late. I came home only, around 1 hour and a half ago, and I came directly to this live. So I myself am so tired, honestly. Okay, Aya Baines, thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. So this brings us to the end of this live session. I hope it has been of some use to the students who asked me, and also to the students who are following this live session. Thank you very much, everyone. We hope to get these insightful live sessions. Looking forward. Yeah, thank you. So be encouraged, ladies and gentlemen, to send me messages in the private asking for a live session on a given point. So I like that, okay? Thank you, Professor Naqam. Thank you, Si Lazraq. Okay. Si Ali. Ali, how are you, Mr. Ali? I hope you're doing well. Oh, I miss you. Si Ali is an old friend. We spent junior high school together. We were renting in a city called Midar, and we had to learn how to cook and how to wash our clothes and how to live independently of our families. So thank you, Si Ali. Glad to you made your appearance here with us. Thank you very much. Cosmic News, you're about to feel that caffeine crash anytime now, so you better take a good hour sleep. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Too much caffeine and insomnia can cause people to die early. الله يحفظنا. Okay, so thank you very much once again, ladies and gentlemen, and let's meet on the nearest occasion. Please be encouraged to type private messages if you need a live session on anything that you feel you need, you would like me to shed light on. Thank you very much, and الله يحفظكم. Thank you. Bye bye.